Welcome to EIPIP meeting 31. This is Pooja Ranjan, and the first item on the agenda is splitting out EIP repos into EIPs and ERCs. There is a link which refer to the issue in which we have some ongoing discussions from past few meetings. So in the last meeting, we were discussing about how we should focus on the numbering of the EIPs and ERCs. There were some suggestions. I'm wondering if people have further thought on it, because earlier we were planning to kind of create some bot or something like that, but it seems that there is another way of customizing the notification. So yeah, any thoughts?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Can you elaborate on the custom notifications a little bit? Is it, oh, okay, you put a screenshot. Okay, I can read this, never mind.
So yeah, the my proposal here was we should keep the process, the current process for EIP numbering, same for the ERC numbering. The only difference that I'm proposing here is even if we create a separate repository for ERCs, the authors of ERCs may have to go one additional step to get the ERC number, and that step would be to create an issue in the current EIP repository requesting for ERC number, and whatever is the issue number will be the ERC number for that proposal. This way, we will never have clash. No new process would be needed for numbering EIPs and ERCs, and we do not have to go back and fix whatever has been done in the past for EIPs and ERCs. And for people who are looking for only notification of EIPs, not ERCs, they can opt out for issues section, because there are options, we can select what all notification we want.
Okay, got it. Thank you. At this point, like, I'm leaning toward manual, like the editor's doing it manually, unless the bot would be easy enough to do.
So by manual, you mean the process, the current process, or?
Yeah, so like how it's done today pretty much, and we just do it across both for assigning it. As far as where to start with the numbering, I've loosened my opinion on that a little bit to where I might just defer to other people how they want to do it.
So I just want to hop in. As far as the bot is concerned, if it's just like looking at the files, file names on both repos and like making sure that there's no conflicts or anything, like that's not very challenging to do. So worth keeping that in mind, I guess.
I think it's more than just checking for conflicts, right? Because you need to also check all of the pending PRs to see if they have a number. And sometimes you might have to check if the PR has been assigned a number by an editor, but it hasn't been updated by the author. So I think that it's not really going to be possible to automate that by just scraping the repos. I think it has to have like a centralized what's the latest, okay, incremented by one, which again isn't terribly hard. It's just needs development work. So I think that we could do that in the future, but I'm pretty happy with just having a spreadsheet and doing that for a few months.
For manual processes, I like Pooja's recommendation of just ERCs we'll go over to the EIP repo, grab a number. Editors can do that. It's effectively the same as a spreadsheet, but it allows the EIP process to stay as it is. And it means we don't have to introduce another tool, such as a shared spreadsheet. Like we just have one tool. When it comes, the next step, of course, will be automating. And once we do automate, then I'm totally down with dropping all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really opposed to doing that either. But I would say like my only hesitation on it is that it doesn't really, it's not going to benefit us so much in terms of notifications if people still have to open issues on the Eips repo for ERCs. I think it'll be better for sure, but it's not, the full extent. Whereas I feel like the spreadsheet is very minimal overhead.
I guess a couple of more questions that would be, helpful to decide on this part would be when we are talking about having a separate repository for ERC. So the number one question will be like, who is going to create the ERC repo and where it will be, all these things, and if we can have a POC for this repository, and then if we think that it can be maintained via Excel sheet, that is also a way. The proposal I had for issue was a temporary one, like till we have the bot or till we have everything in place. So just to start, say for example, if we want to start from today, the ERC repository is created and we want to start, that is an band-aid kind of stuff. So yeah, for long run, bot is okay, I think.
So I propose whoever actually goes and gets the ERC repo created gets to choose the initial numbering system. And then it is up to opponents after that to make a change to the process after it's been started. That way we have incentive to move first and to just get things moving.
One question I have, how would there never be a conflict between EIP and ERC numbers through Pooja's method? I'm trying to figure that part out from the GitHub notification stuff.
Because EIP issues and PRs, they keep on increasing the number. Even if a person create an issue or a PR, the number will be changed every time. For one repository, it's like adding up.
That's a good point. You can just turn off, you can just turn off notifications on the PRs, like you said, or issues, like you said.
Yes.
So you turn off notifications, but isn't the PR still numbered starting from 1 in the new repo?
Okay.
Yes, but we wouldn't use.
You just don't use you don't use the numbers from the ERC repo. You only use numbers from the EIP repo, and so it's like a requirement of creating an ERC that you go to the Eips repo and you create an issue as a stub for your EIP number.
Oh.
Okay. I think I'm pretty on board with that. I think,
or something simple and dumb.
Say that again, Micah. I missed it.
The issues that people created in the EIP's repo would just be like a one-line title, ERC number request, and that's it. And then they would immediately be closed. Like they're literally only there to increment a number, and it's the only reason for existence.
Cool. Okay.
If somebody will create the ERC repo, I will copy the relevant things from the EIP repo and start setting it up.
Oh, funny thing. I just lost my GitHub access because I quit the Ethereum Foundation, so I can't make repos anymore. We'll have to find some other one on the inside.
Shoot. Okay.
So yeah,
no one here has repo creation access. That's
only admins do, and there's only 3 admins at the EF, but I know them all, so I can just ask. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Cool.
I think maybe Hudson, if you can introduce them to the editors here, like Micah and Lightline, would be helpful for future, because this the number one roadblocker here is the ERC repo, and once it is created, we can actually if Lightline would like to start adding stuff there, then eventually we'll start creating process and spreading word around it, like what is the new process and how we would want to do that.
I can definitely make an intro to the admins, to Micah and Lightline. Just I'll get the EIP editors to intro to the admins for the Ethereum GitHub.
That would be very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so coming back to the question now, assuming that we have this ERC repo open this week or maybe before the next meeting, we can start transitioning stuff. And to begin with, are we fine with the proposed method of just creating one line issue on EIPs?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. That can be a good start. And how do we want to share this information? Does announcing it on the all core dev meeting make sense, or do we want some kind of blog, or how do we want to let people who are not directly related to core proposals, obviously they are preparing an ERC, so not related to core proposals, how would they get to know about it? Do we have any thoughts?
I would say the core dev meeting is these things.
Micah, you cut out for me. So can you repeat that whole thing again?
Sure, sorry about that. I would say the all core devs call is the wrong place because no one, like, we're taking away the thing that people in that call presumably don't care about. And so telling them we're taking away this thing you don't care about is something they probably also don't care about.
I would agree.
I
So
hear that there's more devs call coming.
What was that like, client?
Sorry, my audio. Can you hear me?
Can now.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So what I was saying is I hear that there is an all core devs call coming. So that would be, or sorry, not all core, all devs call. No core devs, just all developers. Can't speak right now.
Is that the thing Trent's doing?
Yeah. So that, I mean, that would be the perfect place, obviously.
Yeah, that's true. That would be a good place to recruit and stuff. Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's tough because I'm not sure when that's happening. And, you know, there are a lot of developers who probably don't go to that stuff anyways. So I'm guessing that we try and push it out through some public channels, and we just have to tell people who open ERCs that they have to do it on this other repo.
I mean, I don't see any issue publishing a simple blog if people are on board with that idea on cat herders, like we did for every other information, mostly for the changes that are coming out of this EIPIP meeting. We are happy to do that, and maybe then we can start talking about it on public forums.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Any more thing on this topic?
Yeah, that we still have to worry about what to do with eips.ethereum.org because there's the ERC tab on that. And so it sounds like there's probably going to be some programming need to be. Do we still want the ERC tab to point to the EIPs over in this new repository, which of course will take some new Jekyll programming?
That seems fine.
So we would still have the ERC tab in eips.ethereum.org, but we just need to find someone to do the additional programming to somehow merge that or something like that. But
yeah,
we're working on we're trying to get that set up and working on our system, and we might be able to find some bandwidth to do some development along those lines, but I can't guarantee that yet.
I think that is next question that we would be looking for to be answered. But for now, let's start with this GitHub repository. And once that is active and functional, and if we see that that eips.ethereum.org is not being updated with the new ERCs, probably then we have to reach out to somebody to fix the bot or however it is added there.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're like I said, we're still working on getting that set up and learning how to deal with all that. And I'm trying to get in and learn the programming and stuff like that. We might be able to get to a point where we can help with some of that. I'm kind of hoping with that, but right now I haven't been able to spend a lot of time on that. But go ahead.
What bot are you working on?
If you go to eips.ethereum.org, there's a pretty printed, there's a Jekyll script that goes out to the repository and makes a pretty printed version of all the EIPs. And you have tabs where you can see all of them, the core ones, the networking one, the ERC ones, and it displays those in a kind of a pretty printed format. And so it's the Jekyll script that runs all that, is my understanding.
Okay.
So we shouldn't need to update the Jekyll script at all. You just need to remove the ERCs from the markdown file.
Oh, okay. So in other words, don't have ERCs anywhere in the thing. I thought Light Client was saying we still want the ERC tab, but just have the ERC tab show the ERCs in the new repository.
Oh,
I was saying the ERC tab could just point to the ERC's site.
editing the template file in EIP's repo. I don't know exactly where it's at.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, we're working on that. Hopefully we can get some resources to help clean some of that up too once we get there.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. So is there anything else people would like to bring up, or we can move on to the next one?
I think I'm gonna paste in the Zoom chat here. Brent, if you look at that, those two lines I think are the ones you want to edit to make that point somewhere else, I believe.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is progress on JSON RPC API spec in ETH1.0 repository. Recently, I saw some issues and PRs coming from Alita. Alita, if you have any update on that, or if you would like to talk about it.
Sure. So it's actually still not perfectly clear if I'm gonna be working on that. I'm kind of not super experienced, so like I don't know. I mean, I'm making progress for sure, but I think Thomas hasn't decided fully yet if I will be working on that completely. But anyways, I'm working on ETH call right now, and I submitted the ETH block number spec, and then so essentially, like I expect to have ETH call, at least the first iteration of it, out this week, and then hopefully things will ramp up from there. Because I've been kind of spending the past week like getting acquainted with all the technologies and getting my JSON RPC like system set up. But anyway.
Right. So I had a word with Tomas in between, and between these two meetings, and I propose like having an issue to create a list of what is needed actually, and the task and the bounty, etc. If that can be done, that would be helpful. I think from the tracking purpose, if we want to, like the cat herders want to be involved with this specification being added to ETH1.0 spec repo. So my proposal is to have that issue created. That's number one. And a group of reviewers that we would be looking for kind of reviewing the PRs before getting it merged. Do people have a specific thought on it? Like, is that a good way to proceed, or is there any other better way that can be followed? A perfect timing for Tomas. We just started discussing on JSON RPC API spec on ETH1.0 repo. So
yeah, perfect. I'm not sure if Alita already gave an update. I think it's best if she starts, and then maybe I can add some background too.
Yeah, I gave a bit of an update on my progress with ETH call and on the block number, as well as just kind of referencing the fact that like it's not super clear if I'll be moving forward with it yet. So I intend on having ETH call specification ready this week, and then hopefully we'll have a better idea of my involvement in the future from there.
Yeah, so the progress, we had a few calls with Alita, and there was like 15 minutes each, and we are starting with ETH block number, and then Alita followed with ETH call. And ETH call is a very big one. So if we have the full spec for ETH call, and we're analyzing there lots of edge cases, so I think I gave a few example, maybe like 10, maybe 15, and we need to find the clarity around them because not all of them were immediately obvious. And then when this if call is finished, then we make decisions probably on the, this will give us the good estimate of the amount of effort for every of those specifications, because I think I underestimated them a bit before. And then I think that was suggested by Pooja to actually make it a bit more open after that. So just post it as some kind of Git bounty, Gitcoin bounty with the details, and then I guess Alita will be already in the place to be the best person to follow up. But we also make this part much more open. So if other people want to participate, either as more of people to make it move faster, or just to like compete for the spot, then it might be the way to go. But so far, I think Alita is doing a great job approaching it very technically and analyzing it in detail. So we have lots of setup with like Ganache, Get running, all the ethers Web3 and so on. It's, we see now how much work it is.
Thank you for that. So I have seen a few peers there, I believe, and I have marked, I don't know, Micah and you for reviewer. Do you have any group of reviewers to be marked, or how do you plan to, get notification of that just by activating notification, or how do you plan to go about it?
So my feel is that after Friday, so Alita already opened a special JSON-RPC Discord channel that's been quite active there. And I think there's Micah, there's Eric, and there are a few other people. And then the reviewers should be probably from client team developers. And for now, I can give this early feedback. I don't want to involve too many people because it's still a bit rough. It would be too early to just use everyone's time. But if we cross past this rough time, then we send it and all the clients will be approving all the edge cases so we can detect if there is any client work needed to make them in line, consistent. And if that's more demanding work or something very simple that can be addressed quickly. As for approvers, technical approvers for the repository, up to you really, to the cut herders to say who is the one who is merging that in the end. I think they can just get the feedback from the client developers, not necessarily client developers approving it or rejecting.
Yeah, merging should not be a problem, but as per my understanding, we may not be technical enough to understand that it is done or not. So the decision could be made based on the comments provided on the pull request. That would be super helpful if something is ready to be merged, just a liner mentioning there it is ready and it has been reviewed and something else. That would be helpful.
That was the plan, to do almost something like checkboxes for the client developers. So if they can comment and mark the checkboxes as this client confirms, I don't think they need to participate in the actual formal code review process. Or maybe we'll see after this is finished which one will be more efficient. Because for code review, I'm not sure if you can have external people to do the code review, like outside of the repository.
Yeah, sounds good. So I think I'm good, and I have answers to many questions that I was looking for. I'll try to get in touch with Lita and you too, if I come across any more questions. But do people have anything else that they would want to mention on this topic? I think I have one last question. That may not be directly related to the task that we are doing here for this. About the information sharing, are we planning to share it with the Discord group or mentioning it in the Alcodev meeting that people looking for the spec, they can visit this repository? How do we plan to let community know about this placeholder, the new placeholder?
I think we'll be on the All Core Devs channel when we have the first full specs. And anything that is in progress, this will be on the special channels that Alita set up. this should work. And I don't think we need to raise it on the call. Maybe after a few of those, we can once mention it in the all core devs call to just reach out to wider community audience, because that's what people may be listening to. But I think just the mailing list from the series of Oasis calls that we were organizing would be enough to start a bit more cooperation on this.
Sounds good. Thank you so very much, Alita and Tomas, for update on this. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is progress on EIP GitHub repo action bot. There is an issue added in the item itself. So I was wondering on the status of the first set of tasks. Like I see the last comment is 5 days ago. So was wondering if it is completed or can be closed, or what is the status on it, maybe?
The status is GitHub is annoying.
Yeah, GitHub is very annoying. It's very tedious, but we're making progress. I would say almost like the major problems are almost fixed. So I don't know. I would say this week it'll be done, depending on Micah's like ability or availability to review. But generally speaking, it's kind of one roadblock after the next. So we're kind of taking it as we go. So, but we're almost there. I can feel it.
As with all engineering projects, it went far less smoothly than expected.
Yeah, with more hacking than is potentially expected.
Yeah, there's just one thing after another that I didn't think about when we originally talked about this. Like things GitHub cannot do, things I should have realized that it can't do, but thought it could for some reason. So hacks and hacks and hacks, and it's starting to get close to functional.
The hacks, though, thankfully are like somewhat dependable. I mean, they are hacks, but they're not terrible. They're not. I would say it's a lot better than the bot that exists right now as far as hacks are concerned. So generally speaking, the final result, I strongly believe, is going to be much more reliable and much more readable. So.
Good to know that. So yeah, I mean, like from management point of view, so I'm always keen to see all the issues getting closed and the work is done, because we have to provide status. So as and when you feel that this is done and this can be marked closed, that would be great. I hope to see that coming soon. Do we have anything more on this item?
Yeah, just continuous shout outs to Micah and Alita for doing that.
Yeah, I do that. I mean, yeah, this is a great work. I have seen the numbers of open pull requests and issue in the EIP's GitHub repository then and now. Shout out for Alita and Micah and Light Client for closing them all together.
Yeah, thanks to Micah for being like responsive at all hours of the day. I really appreciate it. I mean, I don't know when, like, what your time zone is, but I've been messaging you at like 5 a.m. my time, so anytime. Thank you for that.
Yep, no problem. I don't sleep, so.
Cool. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is progress on canonical source for EIPs.
Yeah, we're still working on that. We're having troubles carving out time to get a lot done, and I think we've already talked about this pretty much. We're hoping once we learn the system, we'll have some results to show, but it's not much yet. So just progress is slow, but we are making progress.
Thank you, Brent. So now, yeah, great. we are almost on the last item of the agenda. That's a review from the previous meeting action items. 30.1 split EIP and ERC's repos. I think we made good progress on that. We'll soon see the ERC repo, and then I think we can start with the process of having new ERCs in this new repository. Number 2, JSON RPC spec shall be documented under EIT10 spec JSON RPC. Alita is already working on it. Thanks to Maz for providing update. Number 3, remove testing green light from EIP process. Yeah, we have updated it in the EIT10 spec repository as well as the Ethereum cat herders medium blog. The new process has been updated. Action items Alita to take on the solutions for minimizing EIPs and ERC numbers overlap. I think we are going forward with a different approach for now. 30.2, spread the word and find an entry-level resource to contribute to JSON RPC. I'm sure we have a plan for that. Tomas briefly mentioned about bounty and talking about more tasks. 30.3, Tim Baiko will bring up the agreed changes to EIP process in the all core dev meetings. Unfortunately, we did not get chance to mention about it. Let's see, maybe in the next meeting, we'll try to mention about this minor change of the process in the upgrade process. So that's all that was listed on the agenda today. Anyone has anything else that they would like to bring up or discuss about? I had one thing in mind. I'm wanting to bring it up. I don't know if this is the right place, but again, we are considering to get EIP editors and ERC editors funded. So I'm curious to know on two parts, like commitments and the maybe if there is anything in anyone's can suggest on what could be the dollars per hour or something like that. That would be super helpful for us to reach out to maybe DAO or places from where we can get funding. It's fine if people don't want to speak on the call, but let me know offline if it is.
Yeah, estimating for how much something should be worth is difficult, but this is a niche skill set. So yeah, it'll also depend on how much funding we get to do that. But at least if we get a number from some people, I think that would be very helpful to get a number and have some kind of estimate for at least the average or high end even.
Right. So the blog that was published initially, where we were kind of trying to list out how much effort would be needed, according to that blog, it says that 0 to 5 hours per week. But I don't know if we are considering for an individual, let's say 15 hours per month or something like that. But I don't know. I'm not one of the editors, so having some words from editors would be great here.
I missed the first part of that. Sorry, I was disconnected.
Oh, I think I hear static from Pooja. I don't know if they're talking, but we were asking about any estimate for hourly pay rate for an EIP or ERC editor, so that once we do get funding, because we're in the process of looking for funding, we can have better estimates.
Oh, like what is a reasonable pay to attract the appropriate person for this type of work?
Yeah, for a part-time position to start, at least.
Oh, that's a hard question. What country are you hiring from?
Ideally, it should just be a flat rate regardless of geography if the people have the skills.
Sure. So the in that case, you can set a like having hired internationally in the past, what happens is like the rate you set will determine where you get candidates from. If you set a rate that, for example, is below what US people want, then you're going to get candidates from Ukraine and Philippines and Indonesia and India. Whereas you set a very high rate, you get candidates from everywhere. That's why I asked like what kind of where your target demographic is. Do you want to attract people from everywhere, or you just want to attract people from like the less expensive locations?
I think we just want to know data for both so that when we know how much money we get from whoever gives us money for this stuff, then we will be able to apply that and then make decisions based on that.
Right. So the tricky part, I think, is do we want editors who understand the Ethereum ecosystem and like the EVMs, core dev clients, stuff like that? Or do we just want editors who understand how to write a good standard? I think that is likely going to be the big differentiator between the cost. Because if you want someone who understands the EVM and how Ethereum clients work and all those things, it's going to be very expensive because the set of people to know that have a lot of opportunities right now, as we all know. Like, you know, finding auditors, finding core devs, finding people to work on Ethereum is extremely expensive because there are just so few. And so if we're trying to pull from that pool of people, it's going to be costly. Like, you're basically going to be paying a senior engineer rate, which is, you know, full-time would be measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Whereas if you're looking for someone who just knows how to do editorial work, like making sure the EIP numbers there. Sorry, go ahead.
You cut out for just a second, but I think we got what you said, so you can keep going.
Okay. So if you're looking for someone who is just doing more editorial work, and so like making sure the formatting's good, making sure like the grammar and the spelling is good, making sure the wording is okay, but they don't necessarily understand the content, then that will be, you know, notably cheaper because you're pulling from a very different pool of people. But of course, you're going to get very different level of editorial feedback. So instead of getting feedback on, you know, here are some things you could improve content-wise, you're just going to get people feedback on, hey, you know, your grammar's wrong here, your spelling's wrong here, these sections should be rearranged, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
To add on to
So
that,
we
Pooja or whoever is sort of tracking this, is the intent to attract additional EIP editors or to pay the ones that are doing existing work?
So at the moment we have very few active editors. So that is one, but now we are planning to have an additional repository ERC. So mostly we would be looking for ERC editors as well, right? So the immediate, if we say that the requirement would be for ERC editor, but obviously the present editors we are planning to, it cannot be a decent salary as I see it, but obviously it's kind of, stipend may not be a good word here, but yeah, I mean, like at least something for the work that they are doing here. Obviously,
Yeah,
this is a very, very high end job and very important for the Ethereum chain. So yeah.
I think it should be both. I think, to answer your question, Trent, the current editors should get paid, and so should the new ones. And
Yeah,
Micah,
definitely.
was gonna say
Everyone should be paid. I just wasn't sure what the intent was, like to attract new ones or just pay the ones who are doing existing work. I mean, who else is doing this besides Micah?
Light client.
Okay. Well, maybe they offline they should prepare like what they think would be a fair hourly rate. But I mean, I know. I was gonna say, like client, I know you work with Quilt, so like maybe you consider this part of your work already, and you wouldn't be submitting hours anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I definitely consider it part of my primary job already. And, you know, a little bit of money is always great, but I don't really think that, receiving funding for me is going to change the amount of time or effort like I put into the Eips repository, just because there's a lot of other important projects that I'm trying to help with. And this is very important, but what I'm contributing right now is like usually the max of like what I'm able to contribute. And I would venture to say that's probably similar for other editors. It's not really an issue of funding, it's an issue of time. And so, I definitely think that there is the desire to have some people who maybe don't have as much understanding of the protocol, but can do the editorial tasks. And I don't know if that's a different title or like how that specifically works, but I also think that could be a development pipeline for people to be more involved in this part of the ecosystem.
One other thing is maybe we could divide it so that someone who does it full time and kind of is like the lead makes a little bit more than people who do it part time but still get funding for that.
Does anyone have an idea of like what the IETF does? Because I know that they have chairs, committee chairs, and there are committees involved in the standards. And to me, I see that's kind of like, there's the editorial task, which is just, purely editing the standards, but there's also this committee task. And, if we just want people editing the standards, I don't think that it's important to have like really deep protocol knowledge. But in terms of like leading a committee and helping shape proposals, I think that maybe that's just different.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to decide because we need at least one editor with EVM knowledge so that when there's like has this reached community consensus and should be merged as final, then that can, if it's not obvious, then that would need to have intervention from an editor, not ideally, but every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a handful of editors. Micah is very active. I'm somewhat active. Alex Bertozzi is occasionally active. So there's definitely people there who can help out in those instances. But I think like the bulk work is just, reviewing things and, just trying to help out and do those grammar fixes, make sure that everything is accounted for. And maybe that's something that, that doesn't require such a high hourly rate.
Okay, I'll think about this more
But it's
personally as well. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I will too. I was gonna say, I think it's still like a good way of finding people, because to me, like the people who will be doing this job where the funding like really matters is the people who maybe don't have some sort of full-time job already, and they are part of the community, but maybe they're a freelancer, open source developer. To me, I think that this is like a good way to contribute to their funding, because again, like I think I'm just thinking like in terms of myself and like Alex, we are people who are being funded by consensus in the EF, and so it's not again about funding us, it's more just like the time and other things that are happening at the moment.
So while we are here discussing this thing, I mean, if there are any recommendation for ERC editors to whom we can approach to like talking about these things that we are looking for. Anyone, if you guys have any dev in mind that who could be playing this role or maybe interested in contributing.
Well, I'm just curious, maybe I missed the first part of the meeting, but what's the need for having a specific ERC editor?
We are moving towards having a separate repository for EIPs and ERCs, and because of time constraint, the current EIP editors, they choose to do the EIPs only and may not give enough time for ERCs. So we're looking for more ERC editors.
Are there a lot of ERC proposals? I guess I see that. I'm sorry if I'm coming in without context, but it seems like.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, I think someone said last time about half of all everything in the EIP's repo is ERCs. And the ERCs are definitely the most time-consuming ones too. Like, so given an EIP, if it's an ERC, it's going to probably take me 2 to 3 times as long to review versus anything else.
I get, maybe this is just ignorance, but is there a reason, like, is that necessary to review if it's not going into a client?
Well, so I mean, that's part of why I decided to drop them, is because I was reviewing everything, but I don't have time, so I had to pick what to drop, and ERCs are less important than EIPs. Even just like, so when I say review, I would review, give feedback, but ultimately it's up to the author to push through. Even if I tell them this is a terrible idea, I mean, I'll still merge it if it's valid. But the time-consuming part is just getting them valid. For some reason, ERCs tend to be incredibly long-winded and wordy compared to EIPs, compared to core EIPs. Core EIPs very often are like less than a page. Like, it's very terse, very to the point, whereas ERCs can be, you know, it's like a 50-page document, and just getting that like up to editorial standards is time-consuming. Ignoring like making it good and useful, like just getting it, you know, of the quality that we want to have in the EIP's repo or in the ERC's repo if we split it out, is a time-consuming process.
Gotcha.
And to answer your question, Pooja, I don't have any friends, so I don't know anybody.
And I hope that you continue to be a part of this EIP and ERCs. So that is even very helpful. Okay, and it seems that there are a few more things that we might want to look into. And I don't know, maybe on the funding part, I'll try to reach people offline and get some estimate on that. I'm having a thought of, you know, kind of having one, as Lightland was suggesting, maybe one person with technical knowledge to actually understand what EIPs and ERCs are and look into the like important sections of it. And for grammatical and you know, spelling mistakes, I'm not sure, like, you know, that's for that we should have separate EIPs or ERC editors that can be a part of it, or maybe it can be done on a voluntary basis. Like, people generally seem to create a pull request suggesting some typo or word format error. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm talking about here right now, but I think this is something that we should be thinking more through it, and maybe we can come up with some estimate that we can reach out to people for fund for this task.
So actually, I just made a friend. I would like to recommend Hudson as an EIP editor.
Oh, that sounds great.
Sorry, it has to be a minimum 1 week friendship before you can recommend them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I have.
So next,
I have
next call, I have a
friendship
recommendation.
quotas. Okay, thanks so much for running this, Pooja.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And I see you guys all in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining the call today. Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Bye.
See you later.